Sydney, Australia. Topic is transforming the art of speaking with AI. Would you make him feel welcome, Dr. Mark von Rijmenam?
We gather here with dreams in hand.
Come on, that's not me the only one dancing. Come on, who's dancing? Who's joining me? Yeah, see a few. Come on, let's dance.
Organized by speakers, bold and true. The SAI leads, creating something new. With AI's power, our voices rise, changing the
There he goes.
world. We break the skies.
All right, that's enough. Good evening, everyone. It's a pretty good song. It's not as good as the opening this evening, but I think it's pretty catchy. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. It was created entirely with AI. What I did is I used a ChatGPT to analyze the website of the GSS. It came up with a script, and that resulted in the lyrics, which I put into suno.ai. 2 minutes it took me to create that song. That's the future we live in today. So, if I could get my slides, yeah, there we go. So I'm a strategic futurist, and I help organizations all around the world understand emerging technologies. I like to practice what I preach, so I have a digital twin, which you see in the top corner, and a little secret from Michael: if you want to look younger, just go digital. Yeah, very easy. I made myself look a little bit younger because I thought it was, yeah, why not? Not too much about me. There's one thing I do want to share, and that is I consider myself as an optimistic dystopian, which I know is a little bit of an oxymoron, but it helps me understand how technologies can have both a good, a bad, and a very ugly impact on society. And today, I'm going to share both sides of the coin with you, because I think it's important to know how we can mitigate the risks of these technologies so we can end up in a thriving digital future. Now, I'm going to read the room a little bit to see who remembers this. Sort of tells something about our ages, isn't it? Because I very much love this series, The Jetsons, when I was young. But the question is, of course, where is the future that it was promised? That it promised us? You know, we don't have flying cars. We don't have schools in the air. We don't have robots in our house. So where is that future? Well, I can tell you, it's approaching rapidly. And that is because of the convergence of all these different technologies. And it's not just AI, it's also quantum computing, it's also the metaverse, which you might think, oh, the metaverse, isn't that a hype from a few years ago? Yes, it is, but it's back, and it's back much better. And I think it's important to be aware of that the convergence of these technologies will completely change our society. In fact, I think we are going through a digital renaissance in the coming years. And it's not a renaissance that will take 100 or 200 years like the original renaissance, but it will take only 5 to 7 years. And in that time frame, it will completely revolutionize our society. And that is because we're going through this phase transition, where all of a sudden, our society will look fundamentally different. And that's, on the one hand, super exciting, and on the other hand, super frightening. And that's why I consider myself an optimistic dystopian. But if you want to understand how that world is changing, what we need to achieve, and for the Germans amongst us, this is one of the most beautiful words, I think, we need to achieve a Gestalt shift, which basically means we need to have a different perspective on our society. It's the same with this famous image. You either see a duck or you see a rabbit, but you can't see them both at once. And if you switch from the duck to the rabbit, that's when you achieve a Gestalt shift. That's when all of a sudden, the world looks a little bit different to you. And it's important to be aware of that. Now, you might think that the Jetsons aren't here, but they are rapidly approaching. And no, this is not an actor in a suit. This is an actual humanoid that's available today on the market. We now also have humanoids that cost only $16,000 US, which is significantly less than if you want to hire a full-time employee. And there are estimates that think that by 2040, we will have 1 billion humanoids in our society. So are we ready for the future? Are we ready to embrace and dive into the future? Are we? Yeah, there we go. Very good. Well, before we do, I want to take a step back first. Before I tell the secrets of how I believe AI is going to transform our business, I think we first need to know where AI actually came from, for those who are not yet aware of that. And artificial intelligence was first coined in the 1950s. And Alan Turing actually wanted to create these so-called thinking machines, which he believed could become as intelligent as human beings within 10 years. Well, obviously, it took a little bit longer. And since then, we have had quite a few AI winters, but it seemed that nothing much happened. But in the past 7 or 10 years, everything changed when we moved into the deep learning phase. Where now all of a sudden we can have created an algorithm that can sift through data, create patterns, and make something really intelligent out of that. Now, I actually think that it's important to be aware that AI is a lot more than just chatbots or large language models. Now, these cognitive systems are one part of what I constitute AI. And these are ways that we can now talk to the computer. And the computer has learned, instead of we learning the language of the computer has now learned the language of us, which allows these computers to deal with the human world. At the same time, we have robotics, as we have just seen. Humanoids are coming into our world, and they allow us to deal with the physical world. And then finally, we have machine learning, which deals with the information world. And we're now able to analyze and sift through terabytes or petabytes of data in order to make sense and understand what's going on. And the seamless integration of these three is what I constitute as artificial intelligence. Now, everything changed in 2017 when a paper was launched and published which was called "Attention is All You Need." It was created by 8 ex-Google employees. I say ex because Google wasn't really paying attention, because afterwards all these employees left, started to form all kinds of AI companies such as OpenAI, such as Anthropic, which are really important at the moment. But this paper basically defines the T in ChatGPT, as in transformers. I won't bother you with any of the technical details, but this was sort of the takeoff paper that caused everything that we have today. But if we talk about artificial intelligence, I think it's important to also understand that we maybe have to have this different perspective on intelligence to begin with. We have the very parochial view that intelligence ranges sort of from the village idiot to sort of Einstein. But I think we need to have a much more cosmopolitan view, where we move from intelligence for the smallest pieces of life to mice, to apes, to us humans, to whatever is left. I believe there is no upper limit for intelligence. That's super frightening. Because if we have an alien intelligence which will be infinitely more intelligent than us humans, what does that do to our society? What does that do to our work? I think that is something that we need to understand if we want to be able to embrace this new technology. Because AI will be as disruptive as the printing press, as the steam engine, electricity, compute power, and the internet. And I think he meant all of the above combined. That's the impact that AI will have. In fact, there are estimates that AI will have a $20 trillion input on the global economy in 2030. That's in 5.5 years, mind you. So we're going to add $20 trillion to the global economy in 5 years. That's the power of AI. So that means that we really have to start thinking differently, because AI will redefine all our industries, including our own. So let me give you an example of how this happens. Is anyone familiar with Klarna, the buy now, pay later app? I see a few hands, but the buy now, pay later app, it's a technology company, but basically what they did when ChatGPT was launched about a year ago, they decided to install a ChatGPT-like system in their call center. As a result, their call center now speaks 35 different languages. More importantly, their call duration went down from 11 minutes to 2 minutes, while their customer satisfaction went up by 25%. As a result, they fired 700 call center agents and saved $40 million a year. At the same time, they also decided to use generative AI for all their marketing activities, saving an additional $10 million a year. But here comes the kicker. they decided to stop hiring altogether. So since in the integration of this, they went from 5,000 employees to 3,800, and they still don't hire any new staff. That's the power of AI. And in fact, I believe that by 2030, there will be two types of companies. One that integrates AI, and one that doesn't exist anymore. And that also applies to us. This applies for very large organizations, our clients, but it also applies to us very small organizations, that we also need to integrate with AI, we need to work with AI, and we need to use AI in everything that we do. Because I believe that by 2030, AI will kill at least 1 billion jobs. And that's predominantly for those who do not integrate AI in their workforce. Now, AI will, as I said, disrupt every industry, and that certainly applies to our industry. But the future that doesn't seem to be like that. Because if you look at the research that's out there, this is from Reuters Institute from a few months ago, surveying 6 countries, almost nobody had heard of any of the tools that are out there. Only 50% had heard of ChatGPT, but any of the other tools and technologies that are out there, almost nobody had heard of it. It's difficult to read, but you get the gist. So the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed, as William Gibson said. So let that not happen to us. Let us integrate AI in everything that we do. Because I believe as thought leaders, as speakers, we have to be at the forefront of this technology. And we have to use this technology in whatever field you're in. So, how can we do that? I think there are 3 ways how we can integrate AI into our work. And I'm briefly going to discuss all of them with you. It's pre-stage, on-stage, and off-stage. Very easy, actually. If we look at pre-stage, from a pre-stage perspective, I believe that we can use AI to growth hack our business. To really use and integrate it in every component that we want to get more clients, to land more clients, to increase our marketing messages, etc. And that starts with, first of all, with cold calling. I hate cold calling. Who else? Only a few hands? Really? Really? I think it's absolutely terrible, and I'm not good at it either. Luckily, technology is coming that will do that work for us.
Hi, is this Isaiah? I heard you want to show me off in a demo.
Yeah, hey Bland. I hope you're having a great day. I just wanted you to explain to our audience how you work.
I'm having a great day, and yes, Isaiah, I'm an AI agent for enterprises. I can handle millions of phone calls simultaneously day or night, and in any language or voice. I can be used for any use case in any industry across sales, operations, and of course, customer support.
So this is here. So this is not necessarily for our industry yet, because this is expensive as an enterprise tool, and they require minimum, I think, 10,000 calls a month. If you get that, you're doing really, really well. But this is something that is coming, and probably a year or 2 from now, this will be open source, and anyone within this room can integrate this to do the calling, or cold calling for us. Now, who uses ChatGPT in this room? I'll keep your hand up. Who uses the Pro version? Ah, very good. That's good to hear. Who of you know that most of the data that you put in there goes to OpenAI? Okay, a few. But now, of course, ChatGPT or any of the other large language models are crucial in our work. They will enable us to write our proposals much better, to write our research papers, our white papers, and they are super useful. Although we have to be careful, because it's a thin line to tread. Because it's easily to go to the extreme. And let you give me an example of myself. A few weeks ago, I did a keynote in Berlin, and I got asked for a follow-up for a large global client. I emailed the guy. Afterwards, I had a conversation with the guy. And at the end of the conversation, he said, "Do you know that your email really looks like it has been written by ChatGPT? Was it on purpose?" And I was like, yes, that's on purpose. I am the digital speaker after all. But of course, it's not on purpose. And I noticed that I had moved too far into trusting AI and doing the work for me. So we have to find a balance there. The same applies to, you can also use artificial intelligence to create your presentations. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea. Use it just to help you get ideas. And I think for the work that we do, the important work that we do, we need to leverage AI to get ideas. but we need to keep the thinking to us, because that's what clients pay us for. Now, as you might have seen from my slides, I use AI to create my slides, and I use Midjourney to do so, which is an image generation tool. And what I do, feel free to take a picture if you want, I add this description to every image that I create. And as a consequence, I have consistent branding throughout all my slides, which is very useful. So here you can have a tool that you can use so that I don't have to spend hundreds of dollars anymore to stock imagery. I just create it myself. Very easy. Or what about AI videos? It took me 2 seconds to create with Runway ML Gen 3. Really makes it easy to craft a story that links to the keynote that you want to share, the message that you want to share. Very, very useful. Or what about this one, Napkin AI? You just throw in a concept of some text and it comes up with all kinds of frameworks. Again, I wouldn't necessarily completely copy and paste them, but use it as inspiration of how to do that. Very, very useful. And of course, it can help you unleash your creativity. I love this video. It's really cool. It sort of shows you how we can use AI. And I do believe that AI will unleash this Cambrian explosion of creativity. Because all of a sudden, anyone can be an artist, a video editor, a painter, or whatsoever. Which I think is really cool. Now, if you move to onstage, I think the first and foremost example is, of course, holographic keynotes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Brace yourselves, right? AARP's Age Tech Collaborative at CES 2024.
So I did my first holographic keynote in 2020. Since then, it has come a long way, where we now have these so-called proto boxes that you can put on stage. And the cool thing is, you can just record yourself with an iPhone. So you can be literally anywhere in the world. You don't need any fancy equipment to appear as a hologram. Problem still is they're quite expensive. They are roughly same expensive as like a first-class long-haul flight, which most companies are not really willing to do. But it's a good thing. From a sustainability perspective, it's a really good thing. Now, the other thing that we can do is keynotes in virtual reality. As the digital speaker, my first keynote that I did in virtual reality was actually the first TED Talk in virtual reality. And what I'm going to show you now, you are allowed to laugh, because this is pretty historical to today's standards.
Winston Churchill once said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And he was right. Throughout history, we see example after example of governments around the world using the crises to introduce new emergency laws. Laws that often seems to outlast the crisis.
Pretty hilarious, don't you think so? But it was pretty cool, because it was in 2020, the pandemic had just started, and we delivered a TED Talk in virtual reality. I think that was pretty amazing. Now, fast forward 3 years, we have this. And for those who are not familiar with, this is Lex Fridman, which is a famous podcaster, which is moving into the Metaverse 2.0.
This is so great. Lighting change? Wow.
Yeah, we can put the light anywhere.
And it doesn't feel awkward to be really close to you.
No, it does. I actually moved you back a few feet before you got into the headset. You were like right here.
I don't know if people can see this, but this is incredible. The realism here is just incredible.
So this is Metaverse 2.0, where we're entering into a hyper-realistic digital world where the digital and the physical are converging. Now, of course, the ultimate use of AI is to digitalize ourselves. And earlier, at the start of this year, I did so. I created a digital twin of myself that you can talk to via text, audio, and video in 29 different languages. I think I was the first person in the world to do that. And you can actually have an app where you can actually have a conversation with me while I'm at Bondi Beach in Australia. It's pretty convenient. So I think that this is really the way forward. However, you might think, well, this is nice, but this is really expensive. This is predominantly the work for very large organizations, such as the McKinseys of this world, who have created what's called Lily, a large language model trained on everything they've done in the past 70 years. As a result, these strategic consultants, who are already one of the most productive consultants in the world, became 30% more productive. Now, you might think, well, that's nice that McKinsey does that, but we are just a small company with thought leaders, with a small team. There's no way we can do that. Well, I'd like to beg to differ, because I have done the same thing. So here you have me, my younger me. A new one is coming, because your digital twin never really ages, so I'm at the moment updating it. But my digital twin is trained on 6 million of words of everything I've done in the past 12 years as a speaker. So my keynotes are in there, all my podcasts are in there, my books, my articles, everything that I read goes in there. So the moment I read something, my digital twin updates itself as well. So I don't think there's any excuse for any of us in this room not to go ahead with this. In fact, I believe this to such an extent that I used it in my TED Talk.
What an interesting time we live in.
So I gave a TED Talk about a year and a half ago in Athens, and I used my digital twin to do the opening part of my keynote. It was meant on purpose to sort of confuse people, because after a minute and a half, we faked that the connection broke from Australia, and I walked on stage, which was pretty cool. So we need to use this kind of technology if we want to tell our story. And that's why I think AI really shines, because it can help us tell the story that we want. Now, this is what we see today. Literally about 12 hours ago, Meta announced Project Orion. Project Orion is these small glasses that you can put on, which is the first time we actually see augmented reality really having a big impact. Fascinating example of where the world is going. And probably 5 to 7 years from now, we can ditch our smartphones and we can ditch our laptops. So what does that mean for us as speakers? Well, if on the one hand we see that companies are firing everyone and becoming smaller, and there will be fewer companies, so what does that mean for our business? It will probably mean that maybe the large organizations will be fewer, so there will be fewer work for us. But then we can use digital twins to increase our market again. Because now we can create a digital twin, and we can start to do one-on-one keynotes for one person, in their living room, and addressing them by their name and their background, while you are enjoying a cocktail on the beach. That's the future I believe in. In fact, I'm actually building a platform to achieve that. It's called FutureWise, where we allow thought leaders around the world to join as digital twins and share their insights in this format that I believe is going to be the future. I think if we look into where the world is going, AI is going to define everything. Now, finally, I want to switch a little bit on offstage, because offstage is really useful as well. And I use AI in everything I do from an offstage perspective. So I create, for example, summaries of my talk with ChatGPT. At the end of the talk, there's a QR code, and you can download the summary of this talk and also see my workflow that I use with that, because I use that to create leads for follow-up keynotes. So feel free to copy that workflow. It's very useful, I have experienced. And you can also use it to craft your social media messages. So it automatically cuts your keynotes into short segments that it automatically pushes to Instagram and to X and to LinkedIn, etc. Very, very useful. Now, you can forget everything I've just said. Because the world is moving so fast at the moment that there's now a new technology called agentic AI. I don't know who comes up with these names, but agentic AI is sort of where we have AI systems working and collaborating with each other to solve very complex problems that we thought were only meant to be solvable by humans. It's sort of part of the 5 levels of artificial general intelligence that OpenAI is expecting. The first one is chatbots, which we have at the moment. So chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude, where you can have an interaction with the computer. Next, we'll have reasoners, which is sort of the latest version of ChatGPT 1.0 or 1.0 preview, which sort of reasons and thinks a lot longer about an answer. Then we get agentic AI, which are agents, which are very, very good at a narrow domain, but they are able to collaborate with each other autonomously to solve decisions on their own. Exciting again, but also frightening. Then we have the innovators, AI that can come up with new problems, solve science, help us with climate change. And the final step is where AI can actually become an organization. So we don't need employees anymore. We just have AI running the show. Is that good or is it bad? I leave that in the middle. But this is where the future is heading. Now, I promise you to also share a bit of the dystopic side. So anyone who wants to leave on a good end, this is your time to leave. But please don't, because I think it's important to understand how AI can really have a negative impact on our society. And there are numerous ways. And the reason being is because I believe that we have sort of sleepwalked into this digital age. I believe that we're not truly aware of the implications of these technologies. Yes, we know how to use a smartphone. Yes, we know how to use X or LinkedIn. But at the same time, we're doom scrolling. We're spending hours and hours and hours on the mobile phone just doom scrolling. And do we know how OpenAI is actually using your data that you're putting in? I really wonder if, as a society as a whole, we have a good understanding of the implications of these technologies. And while I said at the beginning that AI will contribute over $20 trillion to the global society, next year it will cause $10 trillion in global damages. Security breaches, phishing. When ChatGPT was launched in 2022, phishing went up by 1,265% because your Nigerian prince now speaks 35 languages fluently. And that's scary, but that's the way the world works at the moment. So if you thought that manipulation and polarization and misinformation in the age of social media was bad, it will be child's play in the age of AI. That's very, very worrisome, especially in a post-truth world. Some of you might know this image from about a year ago where we see the Pope in a white puffer jacket. Fast forward a year, and now we have this. None of this exists. This is created with a tool called Flux, which can create hyper-realistic humans, and then use it, and a video generator, you just automated it. So now we can't really see anymore what's real, what's fake. And if we can't trust anymore what we read, what we listen to, what we watch, I think as a society we have a problem.
You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real?
How do you define real? This is, of course, an episode, a scene from the famous movie The Matrix. Although it's not, because this is a digitally recreated scene of The Matrix, where everything that you see, including Keanu Reeves, was digitally recreated. This was done 2 years ago, cost 260 million, and 200 people worked on it. I can now do that probably on my own in probably 2 or 3 days. That's how fast technology is evolving. So good luck to tell fiction from reality if we now have these game engines which create this so hyper-realistic imagery that it becomes very, very difficult to know what is real, what is fake. And if we move into the world of digital twins, which I believe we will, then deepfakes are becoming really, really problematic. Because if I can create a digital twin of myself with minimal resources, if I have unlimited budgets like a bad actor or a state actor, I can do really scary things.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
It still gives me goosebumps whenever I watch this movie, this little scene, because this is the future that's waiting for us. And if you think, well, that's nice, digital twins and deep fakes, what damage can they do? Well, they can do significant damage. There's a firm called Arup, an engineering firm, that earlier this year got defrauded by $25 million. And the story is really scary. Because what happened, there was a senior director received an email from someone asking to transfer $25 million. He was smart, because he thought it was a little bit fishy. So he decided to hop on a Zoom call with other board members. 3 other board members joined, but unbeknownst to him, these 3 board members were deep fakes, both in audio and video. So the criminals had recreated 3 board members in audio and video, and that was sufficiently for him to transfer $25 million. And if you think that this only applies to big companies, you are wrong. Because this also applies to us families and to our personal lives. There's a story in Australia where a mother received a distressed call from her daughter. And her daughter said, well, I've been abducted, you need to transfer $50,000. The mother, of course, very scared, and had the money, decided to transfer $50,000. But unbeknownst to her, her daughter was just sitting upstairs, blissfully unaware. They had cloned her daughter's voice and used that to call the mother with her number. So I always tell audiences now to have a sort of a stopword or a keyword that you can ask if you don't really trust the person who you're talking to. Sounds ridiculous that we have to do that, but I truly believe that we have to do so, because who you can trust in today's world is really difficult. So, how do we move forward? How do we move forward? How can we integrate AI in our business, in our personal lives? How can we unlock the prosperity that my optimistic side of me thinks and believes that we will achieve? Well, I think we have to focus on the skills that really matter. First of all, this is focusing on adaptability. We shouldn't be stuck in our grounds. And this applies to large organizations, this applies to adults, and this very much also applies, all these skills, to the next generation. We need to teach the next generation these skills. So if we are more adaptable, if you understand what's happening in the world, we can make a change and we can switch between different technologies. We have to have the analytical skills to understand what's going on in the world. We have to be good problem solvers to know which technology to trust, whom to trust online, and how to do that. In order to do so, we have to also have strategic foresight. Just like I'd love everyone to be a futurist. Because if we are better able at doing strategic foresight, we can better understand what's coming. Of course, we need to have digital literacy skills to really understand how to use these technologies and how to use these technologies in a responsible way, which ties into my last one, which is we have to embrace ethics. We have to make sure that these technologies, whether they are used by us or created by big tech, are done ethically, responsibly, and we can hold the people and the companies accountable. But what I think most importantly is we need to think long-term. And with long-term, I'm not talking about 1 year. Now I'm talking 5, 10, 20 years. Because the technology that we're building today will become the foundations of the technology of tomorrow. So, I've shared a lot about what's happening in terms of AI. So how can you use these insights when you come back to work after this fantastic conference? First of all, I think we need to educate ourselves. We really need to learn the future of business, to understand how we can use AI in our business so we can leverage in an ethical way. We need to experiment. There are over 10,000 tools out there in the market, and it's important to know how these work and which one are useful. And that doesn't mean you need to spend hours and hours per week to do so, but at least spend 20, 30 minutes at least per week to understand what's happening. And finally, we need to execute. We really need to embrace AI in everything that we do. Because we, as thought leaders, we can teach and train all the other organizations to do so as well. And if we do that in an ethical way, I really believe that we can end up in a thriving digital future. Thank you very much.